Yo, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy Snoozy. Blizzard just dropped massive updates to Mythic Plus and this new blue post that just came out. Let's go ahead and review it and see what new changes we have. One of the big things they have is lots of players would enter the system at 7 that don't need champion gear anymore, but we're not ready to be in 7s. So they're looking at adjusting 7s with the damage that the enemies do and with Challenger's Peril. And then keys in the 2 to 6 range had a shallow applicant pool. Most people weren't even running 2s to 6s. If they were usually running with friends getting carries. So looking ahead to Season 2, their aim is to make the Mythic Dungeon system more rewarding from the outset and to smooth out the difficulty progression so it feels approachable. That's awesome. So the first change we're looking at is baseline mythical dungeons will now award champion trek gear from each boss with a weekly instance lockout. The health and damage of enemies in those dungeons has increased to reflect the improved rewards while keeping mythic zeros an accessible point of entry for players. This is an awesome change, giving players pretty good starter gear when they're getting into mythics as they're learning the dungeons, and it doesn't feel like I should have just ran heroics and then there's this weird gap of jumping levels where 2s, 3s, and maybe even 4s aren't really even worth it, and you're better off just jumping to a higher key level. Now it feels like you can do a real progression from Mythic 0 and up. The next change is Mythic 2s through 10s. Each new level will now increase the health and damage of enemies by 7%, down from the previous 10%. Per level scaling will remain at 10% for Mythic 11 onwards. So this is going to make Mythic 2 through 10s feel very smooth, and it'll feel like it's very doable, which I think is a very good change because this is going to be where the primary player base is. This is going to be where most keys are ran, and making this feel smoother and feel better, I think, is going to help incentivize players to keep playing and possibly push into this Mythic 11 tier. The next change we're looking at is Xal'atath's Bargain. The rotating affixes will move up from Mythic 2 to Mythic 4, leaving no affixes other than the existence of a timer at the 2 entry levels of the Mythic Plus system. This is really good because from the Mythic 2 and 3 level, most people don't even know their classes, they don't know the dungeons, they don't know the people. There's a lot of unknowns and a lot of confusion, and so having affixes in there, adding that level of complexity was just unnecessary when everything else was already working against you because you have not mastered the dungeons or your class yet. The next change is the alternating cycle of Tyrannical and Fortified will move up from Mythic 4 to replace the Challenger's Peril affix at Mythic 7, with the other one continuing to take effect at Mythic 10. So this is awesome. Tyrannical and Fortified moving up to 7, so the keys just get harder, and then you don't even see the death timer affix up until 10s, means that deaths are going to be way less punishing in lower keys, and it's going to feel a whole lot better, and you're not going to be punished as much for making a mistake that you probably didn't even know you were going to make at the time just due to a lack of knowledge. The next change is at Mythic 12, instead of an additional 10% increase to enemy health, Xal'atath's Guile will now include the increased timer penalty for deaths that was formerly part of Challenger's Peril, as a replacement for the rotating bargain affixes. While the mechanic could feel overly punishing for groups still learning and progressing towards gear rewards, a focus on clear execution remains appropriate for the upper echelons of the system. This is really awesome. This is a really good change because making Mythic 12s no longer do 10% jump in damage means that going from 11 to 12 is going to feel a whole lot smoother, and now the only thing that needs to happen is you need to play cleaner, and that is going to make continuing to progress Mythic Plus feel way better, way more approachable, way more fun, because you're not just going from an 11 hopping into a 12 and just getting one shot out of the blue because you weren't ready for that 10% jump. Here they have a breakdown of their new rewards and affixes at each level. So as we saw before, Mythic 2s are the timer, Mythic 4s where you get the bargains, 7s where you run into Fortified and Tyrannical, Mythic 10 is Fortified and Tyrannical, and then you're going to get Mythic 12s where you get Xal'atath's Guile. Additional note, in relevance to players at the upper end of the system, we are changing the rating requirement of the new Keystone Legend achievement to 3K. This is being done to keep it comparable to the level of challenge and prestige after the changes to overall scaling. We will also be decoupling this achievement from the system that allows players to set a floor for their high-level keystones. Instead, once a player has finished all 8 seasonal dungeons at 12 within the timer, Your keystone will no longer automatically de-level below 12. This is really awesome. The fact that we're not getting automatic de-levels if you brick keys while you're progressing past 12 is going to make it feel like a real progression. You're going to be able to prog keys like you prog raid bosses, where you're figuring out strats, you're figuring out things to do, and then you push past that and get to the next level. This is a really, really, really good change, and I think Blizzard is really working hard to make Mythic Plus really good. This is the best thing we could have seen, and I hope there is more on the horizon. This is all I got for you guys. I hope you're as excited as I am. Snoozy out.